Good morning and welcome to the Morning Breath Livestream. I am your host, Jeremy Tunnell, systems designer and coherence coach. This is week 13, day 63 of our 14-week journey entitled The Path of Personal Transformation. Today, we continue exploring culture, systems, and society. Who shapes collective memory and why reading and study matter? Today, I want to discuss conspiracy, not from the perspective of mockery and not from just blind belief, but from the perspective of awareness, discernment, and systemic thinking. Because the pursuit of truth matters deeply, but so does maintaining your center while searching for it. One of the easiest ways to lose your power is to become emotionally consumed by the very thing you're trying to understand. Because many people begin seeking truth, but slowly become trapped inside narratives. And once identity fuses with the narrative, clarity becomes much harder to maintain. I found in my life that the pursuit of seeking answers and to ask important questions is deeply important. These are questions of power, media manipulation, institutional fortitude, government transparency, corporate greed, technological choke points, historical narratives, and honestly, in the end, some of those questions mattered and some didn't. I believe it's our responsibility to question the systems we're a part of. We should examine incentives and history. We should investigate power structures and remain intellectually curious. We should not just sit and consume what we're told. But I've also found myself slowly disappearing into rabbit holes and having to climb back out. Not because I was stupid, but because when we study for ourselves, we only have to scratch the surface to realize that the narrative is just a thin coat of veneer on the outside of an illusion. That breeds uncertainty within, which creates emotional vulnerability. And when people begin to live in uncertainty, they feel powerless, afraid, isolated, and distrustful. You can understand why people don't seek truth for themselves. Those are awful ways to live. But as systems designers, it's our responsibility not to fall into that narrative. The problem becomes that certainty is emotionally addictive, especially hidden certainty. The feeling that I finally see what nobody else sees. That feeling can become intoxicating. And eventually, like all things in the human pursuit, the search for truth becomes less about understanding reality and more about maintaining an identity. And that is when we fall into becoming conspiracy theorists. There is a difference between studying systems and psychologically attaching ourselves to narratives. The distinction deeply matters because systems designers must remain capable of observation. The moment we become emotionally fused with the story, we stop seeing clearly. We begin filtering everything through confirmation. Everything becomes evidence. It becomes connected. And maybe it is, but identifying with it becomes the problem. The nervous system will become trapped inside hypervigilance and fear and outrage and obsession. And for good reason. There's no longer discernment. It's narrative capture. Seeking truth is healthy, but it requires self-regulation. We must be emotionally and somatically prepared for what we find because we do not live in a world of peace or rampant goodness. Humans have an incredible capacity for evil and hidden agendas, especially in collective form. Losing yourself inside narrative does not allow you to remain empowered. You can recognize this for yourself because once emotional identity becomes attached to being right, humility disappears, curiosity fades, and inquiry quietly becomes ideology. Conspiracy culture often emerges when trust collapses, when institutions become dishonest, when media becomes manipulative, when society is unstable, and when people feel disconnected from meaning. And to be fair, institutions lie. Systems can be manipulated. Narratives are manufactured all the time, and many conspiracies are real. But the deeper issue is what happens psychologically to human beings when uncertainty becomes overwhelming. The human mind wants closure. It seeks patterns. It finds explanations, and it desires control. And conspiracy narratives often provide exactly that: certainty, belonging, identity, and emotional direction. But systems thinking requires something harder. the ability to remain inside certainty without collapsing into simplistic conclusion, because reality is complex, because complexity rarely fits neatly into emotionally satisfying narratives. From a systems perspective, conspiracy narratives can function like self-sealing systems. The narrative absorbs contradiction. Disagreement becomes proof, and questioning becomes imperative. Absence of evidence becomes the rabbit hole. And once a person becomes emotionally fused with that narrative, their ability to observe systems objectively decreases. This matters because systems designers must remain outside the emotional gravity of the system itself. That's a tall order. Not disconnected, not apathetic, but grounded enough to observe patterns without becoming consumed by them. That takes practice, because when fear controls perception, discernment weakens. And the modern world, with algorithms increasingly rewarding emotional activation, fear spreads faster than nuance. Outrage propagates quicker than complexity, and certainty grows more rapidly than humility, which means maintaining coherence is now a form of resistance. Culturally, we're living in an age of collapsing trust. And when trust collapses, people seek desperately for certainty. Some attach themselves to institutions. Others attach themselves to anti-institution narratives. But both can become forms of unconscious dependency, because the deeper challenge is learning how to think critically without becoming psychologically consumed, learning how to investigate without losing emotional regulation, and how to stay curious without becoming addicted to certainty. And honestly, I think this becomes even more important as artificial intelligence and algorithmic influence, deepfakes and synthetic media, information warfare all continue to accelerate. The future will require human beings capable of discernment under uncertainty. Not just intelligence, not just information, discernment. Today, pause and reflect. Don't ask who is right. Ask what happens to human beings when identity becomes fused with narratives. Where do I lose my center emotionally? Where do I become reactive instead of observant? Am I seeking understanding or emotional certainty? Because truth matters, but remaining coherent while searching for truth matters as well. And systems designers must learn how to observe systems without becoming psychologically captured by them. Find some time today to spend with your journal and explore these questions. Where do I notice myself emotionally attaching to narratives? What topics make it difficult for me to remain curious or regulated? Do I seek understanding or certainty? And what would it mean to pursue truth without losing my center or falling into narrative? Let's do our breath work this morning. And I wonder if you know the definition, the root of the word conspiracy. You know, when you hear this for the first time, it is a bit of an aha moment. It was for me. The root con means together, and spiracy refers to breath, respiration. So what conspiracy actually means is breathe together. We conspire together. And it's been turned into a dirty word. Here's the conspiracy. Because when you live in a system that uses secrets and hidden agendas, you create a hidden agenda to make the word conspiracy bad in the psychology of the population, so that anybody that seeks out truth of what is really in the shadows is a kook. They're crazy. They're not crazy. They're as emotionally attached as anybody else to the narratives that they're living within. And if we're going to be systems designers, you have to breathe together without that attachment. Let's get into our breath work. Find a comfortable seat. Roll your shoulders, shift your hips, and let's breathe in through our nose, one large breath, and exhale all your air out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose and exhale all your air out. Breathe in through your nose for about 5 seconds, 6 seconds, through your mouth for about 5 or 6 seconds. Let's find a pattern there. Nice, slow waves of breath. About 5 or 6 seconds in, 5 or 6 seconds out. Maintain that pattern. Let's begin a gratitude list in our minds. I am thankful for the day. I am thankful for the sunrise. I am thankful for the birds. I am thankful for the opportunity today brings. Continue with your breath and your gratitude list. We're going to go for a few minutes, and if you get distracted, return to breath and gratitude. Keep the pattern going. Expand your gratitude. Stay with it. Keep going. Let's take a big inhale through our nose and exhale through your mouth. Return to the space. Again, if this resonates, stay with the practice, because discernment is not the same as paranoia. And the ability to remain coherent inside uncertainty may become one of the most important human capabilities and capacities of our time. The moment identity fuses with narrative, clarity begins to disappear. If you are participating in the Morning Breath Livestream, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel. As emerging systems designers, feedback is important, and I'd like to hear from you. Comment, like, and subscribe. I really appreciate you. Take a breath. I'll see you tomorrow for Freeform Friday.